Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Darshawn McAway. You're tuned in to WowPodcast. By all means, go to wowpodcast.me. That's WowPodcast.me. Today we have a special guest on the line. We have G.L Helm. He's the author of Borrowing a Moosehead from Cole Porter. Gary, how are you doing?
I'm doing just fine.
Okay, so I know you probably hear this all the time, but I'm so curious. Why did you title it that title?
Well, it is because it is really about, or in the tail part, about borrowing a moose head from Cole Porter's house in Peru, Indiana.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about the book.
Okay, the book is basically a family story about a military family stationed at Grissom Air Force Base in near Peru, Indiana. And it's a very odd military family because the wife is the military member, the husband takes care of the house and writes books and takes care of kids.
So tell me about the main character.
The main character is Jack, and he is a writer. He is not terribly successful. He has had some stories and stuff published, but he is also an actor, and he's done a lot of things down the years to keep writing and to keep body and soul together with the family. And he continues to educate himself about a lot of things. But he is also very curious in that he looks into everything, especially like the circus around Peru. That makes him very curious. And the theater around Peru, that makes him even more curious.
So tell me this, what was that aha moment that made you say, okay, this would be the perfect book to write? What type of space were you in when creating this book?
That's actually very hard to say. I have wanted, because we were actually stationed at Grissom Air Force Base, I have always wanted to write a story, had always wanted to write a story about Grissom and what happened there. And I wrote a kind of a long short story, but I didn't think it actually covered it enough. So that's where I came from, and that's been, well, I wrote the original short story like 10 years ago. We're pretty close. And I came to the place where I was between other books and decided to write this one up as a full book rather than just a long short story.
Do you have any interest in turning this book into a movie?
Oh, yes. As a matter of fact, it is in the hands of some producers right now, and they're looking through. I haven't written a script for it, but they are judging it on whether or not it might be a good movie, and it has moved up through the contest finals. It's now up in the quarterfinals, so it may get made yet. You can't ever tell.
So going through that process, what are some things that you can tell the listeners that you've learned about companies reaching out to you and wanting to possibly turn it into a movie?
Nobody reaches out to you. You got to go to them.
Mm-hmm.
They because there are 10 bazillion people like me that have got books and or scripts. I've got both. You have to get out through. There's a couple of agencies out there that you can work through to present them to possible producers. I've been doing that for a couple of years now, and I have gotten a couple of scripts. Again, they're being looked at by producers. I haven't had anything produced yet, and nobody has offered to buy one yet, but they're at least looking.
Now, I typically ask most of the authors who do interviews on the podcast to do an author sheet, and I do that because I'm also teaching people a learning process. When doing an interview, you kind of want to be prepared, and that's the whole purpose of putting your books together. And I noticed in your question sheet, which was I thought it was pretty funny, you asked, your question was, are you given a choice of a superpower, which superpower would you use and why? I thought that was very funny. What superpower would you choose?
Well, there's two or three, but the one that I would really like best is to be able to read minds and be able to transport your spirit or yourself to somewhere else. Those are all things that I would love to be able to do and that I used in the book design.
So how many books have you published?
8.
And where can people find your books?
Oh, they are all on Amazon, and I mean all of them, and you can get them in hard copy, or you can get them in electronic copy from Amazon. If you want a book signed by the author, being me, you can email me at mouseprint@earthlink.net, and I will be happy to sign a book and send it to you along with an invoice. And I ship books all over the world, literally.
So where can people find you on social media?
Well, I am under G.L Helm is one of them. Mouseprint is another one of them. The Mouseprint is the one where you can find all of my books are listed in the Mouseprints area there, and you can see what they are and get a little bit about what they are there. And yeah, those two basically. I use the Mouseprints mostly for business, for writing and books and stuff, and the G. Lloyd for my personal expression.
Gotcha. Well, I'm your host, Darshawn McAway. We're talking to author G.L Helm. He's also known as Gary Helm. He's published the book Borrowing a Moose Head from Cole Porter, a very interesting book. I encourage you to go out and read it. Gary, it's a pleasure talking to you. I hope you have a great evening.
Thank you, and you too.